Yeah, I'm sick of these bliggers. That's what I'm gonna call them now, bliggers. I'm sick of them always looking to the government for whatever lifestyle they want to have. I'm sick of it.
The bligger is a parasite on society, and I'm sick of them who always they begin and end every discussion with, well, why didn't you do this for me? What happened to this? What happened to that? I'm owed this. I'm owed that. It is sickening. It is sickening.
In DC, good morning.
Good morning. Earlier in the interview, your guest mentioned the Moynihan Report. As I recall, the Moynihan Report said that unless the government invested heavily in the black family, and that we would never get out of the situation that we were in based on racism. Also, I'm assuming he knows that. Also, what about all the money that black families have lost based on racism? And I mean based on redlining, based on the higher money they have to spend on loans, based on the higher amount of money they have to spend for their insurance and everything else within their community. That has been tallied up into the billions. So instead of him asking or talking about what black families should do, maybe he should look at what the government isn't doing. Biden had money for students and took, well, not students, I should say, families and children, excuse me, who he gave funds to, and 50% of children out of poverty, he lifted them out. And of course, the government decided we couldn't do that. So again, and my last question to him, since he's a member of the Heritage, he's also, I guess, a promoter of the Project 2025. And I would ask him, are you a DEI hire for Heritage? Since that seems to be
all right, Anwar.
Let me answer the second question first, right? In terms of being a DEI hire, there's no part of me that believes that. I have the respect of my colleagues. My work stands for itself. As I said, I've been writing about these issues and thinking about these issues since I was 15, but even in official capacity for over a decade. But it's interesting that some of the same people who say that black folks need DEI and celebrate DEI will use DEI as a way to insult black people with whom they disagree. I find that actually odd, quite interesting. But to the substance of his question, again, we come back to the same issue, which is the notion that Uncle Sam, the government, is a suitable replacement for a father in the home. So it's always, well, why isn't the government doing more to support families? And again, most means-tested welfare programs do not go to married couples. So whenever someone is making the argument for more government aid to help families, they're making the argument that elected officials and unelected bureaucrats are a suitable replacement for men in the home. That's a position that I cannot and will not take. And to his point in terms of government, bad government policy, I'm not making the argument that government policy has always helped the black family. What I am saying is that when racism was overt, more black children were born to married parents. And in addition, what I'm saying is that regardless of what government policy is enacted or who is in office, I would much rather have 75% of black children born to married parents than to have 70% born to unmarried parents.
All right. All right. Loved his response there. I want to get you ladies to respond. Again, as you all come in, hit that like button. It helps to get this video out in front of a wider audience. All right. So again, that was Delano Squires arguing that the collapse of marriage and fatherhood is fueling the cultural decay. Shirley, what did you think about what he said and also that caller's comment?
So the caller was being, he was being a little like taking a little dig, whatever, in the form of a question. But Delano was correct. Let me say this: I'm sick of, and I would bet you $1 that man who called was a black guy. So Yeah, I'm sick of these bliggers. That's what I'm gonna call them now, bliggers. I'm sick of them always looking to the government for whatever lifestyle they want to have. I'm sick of it, number one. Number two, these same bliggers never consider that for children, and again for their health and their support growing up, two parents are better than one. Okay, it does not mean that your single mom or your single dad, for that matter, did not do a great job. They did the best that they could, but that does not negate the facts that two parents, which has been the case since time began, are better for children's health outcomes, academic behavior, income stability, religious and spiritual teaching, if you will, all of that. They don't want to address that because they look at everything comes down to, oh, this black guy, he's talking about me, so he must be a DI or Uncle Tom. They go back to racism. The same bliggers keep doing the same thing, and that's why then they want to say, well, the government didn't do this for us. Which is it? You want the government to do this, or they're not, and then you blame them because they're racism, systemic racism, because they're not. Which is it? It doesn't make sense, Bligger. It really doesn't. It just does not. I'm sick of it. I am sick of it over top of my head. I'm sick of it.
I agree, Shelly. I can't stand the smell of a Bligger. I can smell them coming from a mile away. I don't even have to see them. As soon as I can smell them, and then they start opening their mouths and they make me sick. And he was a quintessential Bligger. Okay, that's what he was. And I want to get you in here, Nicole, because they tried to corner Delano with loaded questions, but he responded with truth and common sense. What are your thoughts?
Listen, I am so blessed. I am so God blessed with friends who have a mastery of the English language and can, if you bring smoke, baby, they will smoke show you out of town. And Delano Squires is a gentleman scholar. He is very, very bright. I too am a member of the Heritage Foundation, proud and loud. And I will tell you that Delano Squires is nobody's DEI hire. He's usually the smartest person in the room. You wouldn't know that because he's not the type of guy to bash you over the head with how much he knows. But you call him a DEI hire, he's going to giggle at you like, look, I've been doing this since I could read and put sentences together, since I could conjugate a verb. I know more about building Black families than you do being in a Black family. Delano is absolutely the truth, and he has a way about him that kind of gives you pause. There aren't many political commentators that have that. Ian Rowe is another person who has that. Reason and Logic, two other dudes, Black men, who have that thought process that they cut you up into little pieces and you don't even know you've been cut. It's like paper cut torture. You bleed to death, but you don't know it until later on. Delano is that man. But I will say this, Delano is absolutely pro-family.
Right.
He is pro two parents because studies have shown that children do better in two-parent households. And as Shelley said, that's not to knock the people who are killing themselves doing it on their own single. But let me tell you, Black wives matter, right? Get you a wife and raise you some babies. Right. Do the right thing for your children. Try to work it out. I'm not saying marry the person that, you know, this just happens to be in your life at this point, but be thoughtful about who you build your family with, because the one thing the United States government has shown us that they cannot do well is parent our children. It's not designed for Uncle Sam to step in and be the father to your children or the mother to your children. Because we'll sit here and we'll argue to death about free healthcare for these children whose parents both have jobs, but nobody's contributing enough to make sure these kids get what they need. They'll talk about the food insecurity of these children and they'll say, oh, well, you know, dad's only paying $200 a month in child support. Well, that's because he has another family with somebody else. So who has to take care of him? The government. We weren't always this way, people. This is not the way we used to do it. Government has stepped into our lives and became so big that they squeeze family out. But the absolute honest truth is we learn government in our families, right? Where you have somebody who runs the household. Hopefully
that's a very good point, Nicole. Yes, it is the first introduction of structure and government, the nuclear family. But they want to get rid of that and
Yes.
they want to push this degenerate, perverted type of government on
Exactly.
us, where we are always have our hand out. And this is what I'm so sick, and you put it right where you needed to, Shelly, with the bligger. The bligger is a parasite on society, and I'm sick of them who always they begin and end every discussion with, well, why didn't you do this for me? What happened to this? What happened to that? I'm owed this. I'm owed that. It is sickening. It is sickening. I remember I told you, I've said this story before, how we were at a Trump rally, the Trump rally in Philadelphia. We were standing in line trying to get in. Line was all the way around the block. We were right at the door about to get in. There were some counter protesters out front. It was a group of bliggers. And one of them came up to me and says, "Oh, sister, I can't believe you're at this rally, sister. What about reparations? What have they done for us?" I went off. I lost it. I lost it because I was like, why are you always begging?
Yes.
Why are you always begging? And sad to say, it's usually male bliggers.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
usually male
Yes.
bliggers.
Yes, don't let them come up to my car when I'm driving. Okay, if they don't get out of my way, I might damn near run them over. I'm serious. I can't stand it, KJ. I cannot stand it. You know, I can't stand when a man is asking you for money and begging for money. Now, granted, okay, I know people can fall on hard times, okay, but there's a, like my grandmother used to say, there's a pie factory down the street. McDonald's is on every corner. You can have some dignity doing that. You know what? I always, you know, my last resort is always what? You know, you can sell yourself, okay? But I
Lord
say
have
it,
mercy.
AJ. That's my last resort. But again, these people, they get on your nerves. Remember, I'm going to go back to Obama. I think it was his second term or the campaign, and they showed the video of the life of Julia, where they were all praising this single parent woman or whatever, you know, being single from cradle to grave, and she got this good government job, all this stuff. That's not what most women want, okay? That's not what most women want, and it's certainly not what children need. They need a mom and a dad. I know there are circumstances where, you know, maybe they had the best intentions. The mom and dad were married together, whatever. And for some reason, you know, maybe they had to split up. That happens. I get it. But that should not be the goal. You don't start with that. That's not where you start, particularly not for children. And another thing, if you cannot feed your child, if you can't even feed yourself, you shouldn't be having children. You shouldn't be making them. No, you should not be. You need to be taking care of yourself. If you don't have a place for your child to lay his or her head, if you don't have food for him or her, clothing, shelter, you should not be making babies. That's all I'm saying. I take it forever you want it. I'm not saying go and suck your child down the sink either once the child is there in the womb. I'm saying you shouldn't even be making them from the beginning. If you cannot take care of your child, your family, then you should stay single until you can get to that point, because children, they're not cheap, but guess what? Ultimately, they are human beings. They have basic needs, and children are notably selfish because all they think about is themselves. They don't care that you don't have whatever designer jeans you want. All they want is wham. They want milk, they want the nipple, they want whatever, they want the pacifier. If you cannot provide those things, and if you have to rely on the other people, taxpayers, whatever, to feed your child, then you should not be making children.
And it's not Christian. It's not Christian. The Bible talks about this. A good person leaves an inheritance, and that's primarily directed towards the male leader of the family. Okay, we are supposed to be led by our husbands. Okay, and again, circumstances happens, but in general, that is the goal. Even me, as I'm a product of a single mom. You know, she always instilled in us to get married, you know, have children. This is not the way, you know, this is something that happened to me. We made a mistake or whatever, but this is not the goal. Now it has been turned totally upside down. You have actual culture and society pushing you to be single and to be a single mom or a single parent. It is so twisted, and it's primarily in the Black community. And you have pastors and preachers of these churches that are supporting these lifestyles. You know, as Just the Guys, our brother's show here on YouTube, Just the Guys podcast, talks about often to bring back shame. This is the number one thing that needs to be shamed, okay? Yes, a child is a wonderful thing, but the way they are pushing and uplifting the idea of singledom, of getting pregnant and no husband, or, you know, not encouraging marriage, it's pitiful. And we are seeing the fruit in our neighborhoods. It's very sad, and it needs to be brought to heel. It really does.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, KJ. You know, we, for whatever reason, and there are a lot of reasons how we got here, Black America is incredibly transactional and not relationship based. They're looking for what do I get because I'm Black in America. There should be like a laundry list of things that I should get because I'm Black in America. That is not the way to build a family. That is not a way to build a community. And we were not always that way. And when you talk about, you know, God and religion, when you look at some of these churches, they're all thunder and lightning and no rain. They preach the gospel of prosperity, but they don't preach the word of God. And when they do try to preach the word of God, they mix in their own personal politics, therefore diluting the word of God so that people aren't getting fed. What they understand is if I pay this 10% tithe, you're going to tell me I'm going to be blessed by the end of the week. Transactional, not relationship based. Not relationship based. And everything we should do in this plane should be relationship based. This is not a time to be checking your list. Well, I'm Black, I should get a car, I should get a house, I should get health care. Stop making babies you can't afford. Shelley's right about that. It's 2025. You only pregnant because you want to be. Right. This is not like the early 50s. It's 2025. You're only pregnant because you've chosen to be pregnant. Yeah. At this point, you have to make better decisions or suffer the consequences. It's funny that they really hate being transactional when it's carrot and stick. Do you know what I mean? When they made a bad decision and then now they got the consequences, suddenly they want to be in relationship with the U.S. government, who's going to come in and feed their children and offer them health care and shelter. And they get to a point where they're so militant that they say, I can have as many kids as I want. Don't you tell me your morality. I can have as many kids as I want, and you, taxpayer, or you're going to take care of them. You're going to take care of them. You see these on TikTok all the time. When they talk about welfare reform, they're on there talking about me and my 8 kids got $7,000 of food stamps, and you can't do a damn thing to stop it. Just keep working so you can continue to pay.
Right.
Transaction. Wow.